My name is Jade Novah, and I'm a singer-songwriter, actress from Cleveland, Ohio. My style of music is a mixture of Broadway musical and R&B. And that's me in a nutshell. I grew up in a musical family. My father was in a rock band, and my mother was very much into Broadway and musicals and Disney. So I grew up in a very eclectic household with all sorts of music and, you know, influences with my family. Both my sisters sang, and yeah, so I grew up singing in the church, you know, delving into that, and you know, singing around the house with my mom, just with combs and just having a good time, and I fell in love with music. At a really young age, I knew that it's something that I always wanted to do. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to express myself musically, but I felt like, okay, singing was the obvious choice for me initially. But growing up, I was doing a lot of girl groups, and everything that I was doing with singing, I always felt sort of control because I was doing the groups, and you know, management was very controlling, telling me what to do, telling me what to wear, telling me what to sing. I had no kind of creative control, and it kind of really deterred me from wanting to be an artist because I felt like being an artist meant being controlled. So further down the line, I started writing for other artists, and that was a way that I felt I could still be involved with music without having to rely on a third party. I could just write and create, you know, at my leisure, and make the kind of music that I wanted to make, because I was never really allowed to write. Like it was frowned upon. They just wanted me to be cute and smile and sing and just never really be able to express myself as an artist. So I put up these YouTube videos, just working my regular job and just really trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I ended up getting a YouTube message from Tyler Perry Studios, and I didn't know if it was real. You know, you get all kind of messages, and it was like, oh, well, we're doing a tour, and we saw your videos, and we would love for you to be in the next Tyler Perry play. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And I just, you know, didn't think anything of it, but something told me to just, you know, what did I have to lose? And I was in this process of still wanting to do music but not knowing, and I felt like, okay, I always wanted to act, and it seemed like a great transition while I was figuring out what to do on my own. So I gave her a call back, and it actually ended up being a legitimate situation. And it was hard for me because, well, when I got the call and I talked to her about possibly doing a tour, since I had waited so long, they ended up casting the play, but they were still looking for background vocalists. And they said, okay, well, we need you to audition right now, and you know, come up to the studio, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, well, I'm in Cleveland. And she's like, oh, okay, we'll give you a call back later. And I thought like, oh man, they thought I was in Atlanta, so I wasn't gonna get the opportunity. And I actually went to school for fashion merchandising, so I was working in the retail industry, working my way up. I was managing a Lacoste, and you know, this was kind of a big deal for me at the time. So it was, you know, I had to make a choice, because the woman ended up calling me back and saying, okay, well, we're gonna fly you down for an audition and, you know, see what happens. So I let my job know, and they weren't so happy about me leaving for an audition, but they let me do it, and it actually ended up getting canceled. And you know, that kind of sucked. But it was cool. You know, I just kind of didn't think anything of it. And then about 3 weeks later, I got another phone call, and they said, okay, well, we need you to audition, can you come tomorrow? I'm like, oh. So I let my job know, and they're like, yeah, no, you can't do this again. If you leave for this audition, you have to turn in your key. And it taken me so long to finally get into a management position in retail, and you know, I just didn't know what to do. I had a lot of things to consider, you know, finances, stability, but I said, you know, I have to take this chance and see what happens. So I turned in my key, and I flew down the next day for the audition, and I ended up getting it. It wasn't even actually an audition. They just wanted to see how myself and the other background singers sang together, and it worked out. I had to actually understudy for 5 different roles, so I needed to read and just needed to make sure that I could act as well. So 2 weeks later, I mean, I never had to work a regular job after that. That was the thing that allowed me to sustain myself enough to go out and I was on the road for about 8 months. The first leg was about 4. Got to see the country, do things I never thought that I would ever have the opportunity to do, and I owe that to music, obviously to Mr. Perry, because it was just an amazing opportunity. Devin Johnson and we just finished my debut album, In Search of Me, and the first single on the album is called Show Out. I'm excited about it. I actually started an Indiegogo campaign to help raise funds. Initially, I was raising funds because the album is kind of, you know, a little unorthodox in that we wrote a storyline and then we wrote the songs to tell that story. So it was a very visual album, and we wanted to actually create a film to coincide with the album. So that was the initial reason for the campaign, was to raise money to shoot a video, to shoot a film, and to also fund creating the album. Since we're doing it independently, that can be kind of costly. So anywho, we used the Indiegogo campaign. We raised about $8,000, and we used that money to shoot the video for Show Out. So the video for my first single was actually crowdfunded by my supporters, Nova Kings, and yeah, we shot it in Miami, and it was a really great experience. After we put out Show Out, I started a little campaign called My Show Out Moment, and I just basically was encouraging my supporters and other people to tell about a moment that they were proud of, because that's basically what the record is about. It's just, you know, showing out even though you may not have a lot, taking what you have and just working it and being proud of it. And so just whether it was someone who had lost weight or graduated from school or just had a baby, everyone was just kind of hashtagging Show Out or My Show Out Moment. And it was really cool. It was just really positive, and a lot of people were participating in it and just sharing their moments, and it was kind of cool to just connect with my supporters in that way, since that was a big moment for me, you know, releasing my first single. They funded it, you know, I put it out for them, and then they were giving something back to me, so it was really cool. So some of the pros of being an independent artist are just being able to have creative control, the freedom to really do what you want to do and really connect with your fan base. Yeah, I think that's the biggest pro for me, is just creative control. Because like I said before, it was always kind of a challenge with me in the beginning, dealing with a lot of third parties and a lot of hands and liaisons between everyone. It just, being indie is very freeing, and just a great way to express myself in the way that I want to, and just connect to my fans directly. Cons of being an independent artist is just, you know, limited amount of resources financially, so you just kind of have to be creative using social media, Indiegogo campaigns, just any way that you can, because we're living in a very digital age right now where a lot of independent artists can take advantage of those platforms to reach the masses without a need for a label. So even though the financial thing can be tricky, I can turn it into a pro by saying there are great platforms to being an independent artist in this day and age specifically. I'm sure it was probably a lot harder before, you know, YouTube and Twitter, where we could connect directly to our fans. So yeah, but the money thing is it's hard. Some of my biggest creative influences, I would have to, well, Disney, first of all. I'm obsessed with Disney. Always loved their films, music, the magic, just Walt Disney as a person, his ability to want to do something, want to do things that weren't even, they didn't exist. Like his dreams, he had to create and innovate technology, and you know, he wanted to make films where, you know, the cartoons were imposed with real life, and they had to actually create technology to live out the things that were in his head. And I really just enjoy his innovation, and I feel like that's a big part of what Devin and I are doing, is, you know, just creating something that doesn't necessarily exist in mainstream. So for him and I both, that's a huge influence, Disney and everything that he does, the music of Disney, Broadway, Barbra Streisand, Judy Garland, oh, why can't I think of her name right now? Lord help me. Julie Andrews. Yeah, the music of the 90s, gospel, just everything. You know, I'm just influenced by people, things, places, experiences, but Disney's my #1, for sure. programs like Classic are very important for this next generation, because I think it's beyond just helping people understand what they want to do. It's beyond that. It's giving them an opportunity to know all of the nuances about the industry that people don't tell you about, the financial side that's important, because when you're making that transition, you know, working a regular job or just being in school and then finally getting an opportunity, you have to be prepared for that opportunity. So it's more than just the talent aspect, because you can go to a school specifically for music and study that craft, but it's deeper than the talent itself. It's what you do with the talent that you have and where do you do from there. You know, you're a singer, that's great, you can sing, but how do I become an artist? It's a big difference between being a great bass player and being a bassist, you know, someone who's actually working. It's bigger than just the talent, and I think it's important to educate this next generation and even people in our generation who are still trying to figure it out. I think it's a great opportunity for us to just know the things that aren't just out there, just to know the financial aspect. I keep saying that because I think it's very important, especially for older musicians trying to break, and to understand the differences between working a regular job and how the financial structure is within working for yourself, being your own, you know, supply of income, and having longevity and thinking long term and not just living for the moment, not having to just work gig to gig, and to be able to learn how to make a career and retire from your craft and not, you know, have to rely on other people. So I think it's great to educate just anyone thinking of being in this industry, because it's a lot of work. So
sometimes the people need some motivation. They're looking at you, so give them inspiration. The music is waiting to be moved by you, so no hesitation, hit them with a bone. Don't be afraid, cause everybody's staring. They wanna see what you're doing and what you're wearing. The spotlight is on you, so what you gonna